Okay, hello, welcome back. Today what we're going to do is attempt to get this diesel heater into the van. Now what I'm going to do is run this from the fuel tank of the van. I'm not putting a separate tank in for this. Just don't like the idea of having a tank of diesel just sitting around in the van. There's the potential of spillage and it would really stink. It's got a smell that lasts for a long time in a van, diesel. So what we need to do is get access to this thing here where we can get the line into the fuel tank, and to do that we need to remove the seat. So there's a few things to do here to get this in, but first of all let me show you what we've got. On the table here we have all of the bits and pieces. We've got the heater itself, we've got the wiring harness, we've got some conduit for the pipe which will go under the van. We've got the pipe and everything. Now this pump came with the diesel heater, but I've swapped it out for one of these. They call this an ultra quiet diesel heater pump, and I'm going to try that because the other one, the ones which come with it, tend to be quite noisy. They click, you know, quite a bit. So we've got that. We've got the fuel line itself. We've got the standpipe which will go into the diesel tank. We've got the exhaust inlet, we've got this to cut a hole in the floor, we've got the turret to put the thing through, and various bits and pieces, tools and stuff like that. So we've got everything we need, I think, so hopefully it will be a smooth operation. The first thing I'm going to do is see if I can take the seat out of the van and get access to the fuel tank. So let's go. This doesn't look like too major of an operation. I've taken these two bolts out at the front, and the seat will do this, it'll move, and I believe it's just on a couple of sort of hooks at the back. So the idea is we can pull that forward, then it should lift up and go back into the back of the van without too much trouble. Let's have a go at that. Okay, that's all right. This wire has come off. I'm sure that'll just clip back in, but that wasn't in use anyhow, so I'm just going to leave that to one side, and I'll get the seat way out of the way at this point. I believe the next thing to do is take the top off this cover, or take this cover off. And that is the same as the battery cover, it's just held on by these clips. And under here is the fuel tank return thing. This looks like it's coming out fairly readily. There it is. Now, we have a few things in there, don't we? Let's have a look. We have the various electronics and stuff like that. But the way that we're going to do this is we have this here, which I believe is just the air intake. We're going to drill a hole in the top of that and then put the standpipe down into it. Now, before doing that, there's a couple of other things to do. This has got a small nut on it, so I'll take that off. We'll pull that out and we'll see where we'll go from there. Oh, look, there's a key. Okay, so we've got that out. Quite a tight fit, obviously it's going to be. But that's it, it is out. So what I'm going to do at this point is measure the depth of the tank, because we're going to need to cut the standpipe to the correct depth for this. So we want a stick or something to measure how deep this tank actually goes. Okay, so I've got a stick in there, and well, from the bottom of the stick up to my hand here, I'm going to measure that, if I can get the tape measure sorted out. So from the bottom of the tank to that nozzle that we just pulled out is 36 centimeters. We don't want the standpipe to hit the bottom of the tank. We want it to be about quarter way up the tank, therefore it'll never actually drain the tank. If there's not much fuel in the tank, then the heater will cut out and still leave plenty of fuel in the tank to be able to drive away. Therefore, with a little bit of quick calculation, we need to make the standpipe 27 centimeters. So I'm going to go back into the workshop and cut that off to size, and then we'll see what's happening with this standpipe. I've cut that off at 27 centimeters. That's going to go into there like that, and that will be a-okay. Now, I've put the first, what you do with this is you put this piece of thick rubber tubing on first and tighten that up, and then you would put the fuel pipe onto it, stuff the fuel pipe into there, and then tighten that up as well. Fair dues. So let's do that. I'll just tighten these up. I've got my little spanner here somewhere. Okay, that's got a good nip on there. That's good, happy with that. As I say, what I have here is the fuel pipe, which is going to go from here to the fuel pump underneath the van. I put a little nip of tape on the end of that just so we don't get any dirt or anything into it. And the next thing to do is to get that into this hole and then put another clip on. So I'd best put the clip on first, actually. Yeah. So we just want to get that pipe tight, obviously. It wants to be. They're nice and tight. It's got a good nip on there. That's good. Next thing we want to do is get the standpipe through the top of this little nozzle here. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to drill a hole through it. I'll just put a little pilot hole in first. There we go. And now I'm going to put a slightly larger hole in so that we can screw the pipe through that opening. The standpipe will go through there and it will screw into the top of it. And we should have enough room to get that back in there. I think we've got enough play on this to be able to get that back in. So we want to screw that just through into this, the top section of this itself. I should have maybe done this first before putting this on, because this is going to flap around, but not to worry. And when I've got this about halfway down, what I'm going to do is put a little bit of this epoxy resin around the threads here so that we get a very tight and permanent seal on this standpipe. And then we just want a little bit of that around the bottom of the standpipe and around the thread, and when that sets it's going to be a good seal. So onward. Very good, happy with that. Now the standpipe and everything will go back into the fuel tank. We want to push that back down, make sure we've got a good seal, which we have. Then we can put this nut back on the top of it. All in place. I'm just going to tighten that back up and we should be good to go. Okay, that's nice, secure in there. Once that epoxy sets, that's going to be absolutely solid in there. And now we just want to gather this this fuel pipe up and drop it down beneath the tank here. And then we should be able to get a hold of that from the outside underneath the van and route it to where it wants to go. Now I'm just going to nip underneath and make sure that that is coming right through. It seems like it is, but I'll have a quick look and then we will continue. So we do indeed have access to that from underneath the van. And with that done, at this point we can get the cover back on here, and that's about it so far as that section of it goes. The next thing I'll do is I'll route the cable, the fuel line along the underneath of the van, which I don't think I'll be able to film because it is very, very dark under there. But that's the next thing to do, and then we'll get on with fitting the heater in the back of the van. And just to show you what I'm doing here, I've got this fuel line all the way out, which is good, and I'm just putting it into this split conduit. That's just going to protect it a little bit more from the elements, and I'll put it in right the way down, and then I'll get this clipped to the underside of the van. Luckily we're on the opposite side to the exhaust and everything, so there's no fear of this getting too hot and melting. And we'll take this as far down the van as we can and then position the pump for this. Right, I'll attempt to show you what I've got going on here, but I'm sure that you won't be able to see that. I've got the pump set up there, and I've got this conduit running right the way down the van from the fuel tank. Next thing we need to do is set up this thing to fit into the van. And the first thing to do is to screw this turret plate onto it. Now a longer socket would be better for this, but all we have is this 10mm spanner. So what I'm going to do is just tighten those nuts up on the bottom of this, and this essentially just ties the turret to the diesel heater itself. I think they are fairly good there. A little half a nip on that one. And then the thing we need to do is fit in the exhaust, which goes onto that one. We have the air intake, which goes onto that one, and we have the fuel pipe, which goes onto this one here. Now I think I'll do the fuel pipe first, because this is going to get a little bit fiddly as we progress with it. And to tighten this, what we have is these little spring clips, and the best bet with them really is to open them up with the long nose pliers, slide them over there, and then let them go. And then we'll put this over the fuel inlet and make it nice and secure. There we go. And now we'll take that clip again and slide it down over the nozzle. Good, that's our fuel pipe fixed in there, nice and tight. I think what I'll do next is I will put this the air intake in. I'll just stretch that out as far as it'll go. That's it. Right, so that is going to go over this one, and then what we want there is a Jubilee clip on it. Right, we've got that over there. Bit of a struggle, but we've got it. Make sure that's all pulled through. Now we can put this on here, and then we just want to tighten up that Jubilee clip. It does have a nut on the end, so I'm going to use this really small spanner, socket rather, and just see if I can get that tightened. I'm going to do the same thing with the exhaust. Put this one through over that way, then Jubilee clip over it, and then we will tighten that one up. Okay, and with all of that in, nice and tight. Next thing we need to do is drill a hole in the floor, put all of this through, position the air intake and the exhaust, and then we will hook up the fuel line. Now I've been under the van to see which is going to be the best place to put this, and what I've done is I've found, let me show you, that just here, if you can see that, I put a pilot hole there, but then I realised I could get a little bit further back, so this is the one I'm going to use. And underneath there, there's a decent sized void, which I've tested with this, certainly big enough to get that in, so that's going to be an ideal placement for the heater. Right, so what we want to do is drill that hole. I'm going to go through a number of layers, because we have the laminate flooring to get through first, then we've got the USB underneath, then we've got the insulation, and then we've got the steel floor itself, so this may take a bit of doing. Okay, so the first thing we want to do here is just get the hole lined up with our drill bit, which is there, and away we go. I can see light, which is good. I'll just see if I can get this piece of insulation out. There we go. And yes, we have a batten there, which is okay. We must be almost through that, I think. Right, continue along. Okay, eventually. I think the 18 volt drill sort of burnt out with this, so the only other one I had was this, which is a bit of a monster, but it has got a hole in the floor. So we're right the way through there. This is good. I'm going to tidy that up with a file, get all the burrs off that, and then we'll see if we can get the heater in. Okay, so with having the hole in the floor, what I've got now is some of this heat retardant silicone. I used this to seal up a coal fire when I put it in the house. And the idea is, what I want to do is just make a continuous bead of this around here. There we go, continuous bead right the way around. I'll also seal up the underneath with this once we've got this in. So what we want to do is just pop that into the hole. If it'll go, it's just getting snagged or something. There we go. Right, so I'm going to put it about there. So we've got a good airway coming from this way for the conduit or the ducting, and plenty of airflow around the back. Now the only thing here is that this plate, the holes in it are far too big for the screw heads which I've got, so I'm just going to put a couple of little pilot holes in here and screw this to the floor. Okay, so the last thing to do with this for the moment is to get the pump electrics sorted out, and then we can wire it up here to the main electrics. We can't test it yet because I don't have the battery in here or anything like that, but if I get everything wired up, smartened up in here, then we'll be good to go as soon as we get the battery. Okay, so what I've done with this is I've got the wiring loom coming around here, and I've connected that to this wire coming out of the wall, which will go to the fuse box. I've put this wire through the floor and connected it to the pump, and that also is connected back up to the wiring loom. Now that just leaves us this one, which goes to the controller, and I may need to extend that a little bit, just the positioning where I would like the controller to be. I don't think that wire is going to be long enough. So the last little thing to do here is I'll just put a little bit of conduit around these, get them tied to the floor so everything's nice and neat and out of the way. Okay, so just to finish up on the heater, show you what we've done. I've got these in conduit here, this one's in a conduit, but as I said, this one which is going to the controller is not long enough, so we're going to have to extend that a little bit. Do that when we do the second fix electrics in here. That essentially, that plug there needs to come to about here in the van, so it's a good meter or so short, but that's okay. There's only what, 3 wires in there, and we can get some of the wire that we used for the first fix electrics and put a little extension on that. That's fine. Right, so I'm happy with the heater. So as I say, what we're going to get on to now is making the cabinets for the van, and that's mainly in the workshop, which is good news because it's getting very cold out here, and I believe it's going to get colder over the next few days. So what we have in the workshop is a little heater, which is good. So I'm going to tidy up in here. We've got all of this electrical stuff out and everything. I'm going to sort all of this out and get it out of the way, and then we will get cracking with the cabinets. Okay, the workshop is tidied up and it's ready to go for the cabinet making. Now, first thing I want to do is just consult the plans here to make sure we're doing the right thing. So I shall settle this camera and we'll have a look at the plans again. Okay, so far so good. This bed unit is in and that's all looking good. We took the measurements earlier for that and I'm very pleased with that. In fact, I've taken 1 more centimetre off just so we have a little bit of wiggle room. Now what we want to do is make these front frames first for the top cupboards, for the bottom cupboards, and the same on the other side of the van. Alrighty, so we need 4 at 1730, 2 at 1044 and 2 at 1360 to the chop saw. Alrighty, so this material here is 44mm by 18mm, and that's what we're going to be using for the majority of this framing, and we've got it marked up there at 1730, and there's the first piece. I'll keep all of these because they'll come in handy for uprights and door fronts and many things. And then we want 2 at 1044. And then we want 2 at 1360. 1360. So next what we want to do is cut the uprights for these, and what I'll do is I'll cut all of the ones for these top cabinets first. Now the depth of the top cabinet from the ceiling down to the bottom here is going to be 300. So if we get 300, and obviously we want minus the 44 and minus the 44 on the top, so we'll say 300 minus 88, that gives us 212. So 212, and how many of those do we want? I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we want 9 at 212. Now this is the same process. I'll just continue with this until I've got all of these battens cut, and then we'll look at what we do next with this. Okay, I've got all them cut, and the next thing I want to do is we have a slightly different construction here, again because we have this kick plate thing going on underneath the units, so therefore we have to put a bottom on this unit. I'm going to put a 9mm bottom on it, which will sit on top of the columns and things that we put in to take this kick plate, if you know what I mean. See if I can show you. The cupboard from the side is going to look like that. We're going to have a support underneath it, and this will be the sort of toe plate sort of thing. But what that means is we need to put a bottom on this cupboard, and what I'm going to do is use 9mm ply to put something all the way along, but on this batten which goes along the bottom here, what I intend to do with it, that will be standing like that. I'm going to rebate a piece out of it here, so when the 9mm ply goes in there, it won't be seen hanging over here. It'll just be a much tidier fit, and then we can screw that through into there. So that's the first thing to do. We want to router out a rebate on here to take the 9mm ply, and similarly with the one on the other side, which would be for the water tanks, etc. So I'm going to set the router up, get that done, and then on to the next stage. I've just done a little test strip of that to make sure the router is set up correctly. So that is sitting like that on the floor, and our 9mm ply will sit in that rebate like that. We'll screw that through, and then that will form the floor of the lockers. Okay, I've done the main one. This one is for the cabinets on the other side. Same deal, we just want to take that channel out of there. Okay, and with that done, the next thing we need to do, I've got a 6mm router bit here, and I'm going to take a channel out of all of these so that we can fit the ply divisions into them. That would be with all of them apart from the end ones. Obviously the end ones, the ply will just butt up to that. So I'm going to set the router up to do that. We'll get a little jig set up to do this, and then we want a 6mm channel down the middle of all of the uprights. Okay, so on this piece of scrap I've just marked the middle of the wood, set the router bit up in line with that, and I've set it to a depth of 5mm. So we just want a thin channel out of there to be able to slide the ply in and glue it in once we come to put these cabinets together. Here we go. Okay, so that's all of them done. Happy with that. Next thing, we need to mark out where the uprights go along the cross battens, and just do a little router cut on them as well. Okay, and to do this once more, we're back to the plans. Now this piece is going on the bottom of the long cupboard on the driver's side of the van. It's got the rebate here for the ply to come out this way, and therefore this end of it is the bed end. I'll just write that on actually. Bed end. So on the bed end we're going to have a piece of the 44 coming straight up like that, and then our plan tells us that we have a gap of 262. So let's go 262 up there, and again we'll have a piece at 44 there. So I'll square that up and mark that there. Coming along from that, we're going 475. 475. It's really good. That one's there. And it's just a matter of continuing this all the way along until we've got all of these uprights marked out, and then we can router them. Marked out, we just want to find the centre, which on this particular one is here, and on this one it is here. Okay, so what I've done with that in preparation is I've clamped these two together so we'll get them in exactly the same place. I've clamped a square to the workpiece itself to keep the router square, and the idea is just to take that small channel and, as I say, when these uprights go on there like that, the 5mm ply will sit right in there and pull that whole thing together. Going to be very, very strong, this. Right, I've got these various components cut and ready to go, all routed, ready to put together, but that's going to be another video. That's it for this video. I think we're making good progress with this van, and the furniture is going to start coming together really quickly over the next couple of episodes, if that's what you would call them. If you would like to see how the rest of this van build turns out, do please consider subscribing to the channel. If you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, and I thank you very much for watching.